Okay, and it is not just college campuses. This is sort of the part of the story that's really shocking. We have seen incidents of hazing at workplaces, on sports teams, and in the military. Hank Nuwer is one of the world's leading experts in hazing. He has been pushing to end the practice since all the way back in the 1970s. His latest book is called Hazing: Destroying Young Lives. And Dr. John Duffy is a psychologist. His book is called Parenting the New Teen in the Age of Anxiety. Dr. Duffy, first of all, I want to start with you. I mean, you hear these stories. Is there a difference between hazing and bullying? Does it all sort of fit into the same category, would you say?
They fit roughly into the same category, but hazing, as Tyler was saying very courageously, kind of speaks to this loyalty to this organization, right? So in order to prove your loyalty to your pledge class, to this national organization, these are the paces that you have to go through. It's based in tradition. So it's kind of pitched to these young men as a rite of passage that will bring you closer into some kind of brotherhood. In the end, it causes just a great deal of trauma that does actually look a lot like bullying, but sometimes, Brian, bullying in the extreme, where there is damage done, not just psychologically, but physically as well, as we're hearing in some of these really, really tragic and unfortunate cases.
And I think one of the most surprising things is this is not just happening on college campuses in fraternities and sororities. We have heard stories today about people who work at law firms getting initiated with a certain level of disturbing hazing. I was talking about this on Twitter with some people earlier. There was someone in medical school who messaged me and said, it's happening in medical school. I'm in my second year of medical school and I'm being hazed. Hank, how prevalent is this in industries once people graduate from college?
I mean, I started in 1990 writing about medical school hazing, and Dr. Silver at that time in Denver showed 47% of all people in medical school said they were either physically abused or mentally abused, almost 50%. And so this has been going on. We look in other countries, the Philippines, there's even been deaths in medical fraternities.
Unbelievable. Medical school, of all people, you would think that that they would not be doing this. Dr. Duffy, it does seem that we hear about the stories a lot from fraternities, but there are disturbing stories from sororities too. I mean, do you think this is sort of a male-dominated thing, or is it happening in sororities and we're just not hearing about it as much?
In my clinical experience, and clinical experience broadly speaking, we're seeing this far more in fraternal organizations dominated by men than in sororities or other organizations dominated by women. Not that it doesn't exist in some way, shape, or form, because I have heard some stories about forcing girls to drink to get into sororities, young women who are body shamed, sometimes by men in fraternities in order to get into sororities. So certainly this is not strictly a fraternity-based concept, this whole idea of hazing, but I think the vast majority of the damage happens in the fraternity system more so than the sorority system.
Yeah, and I think the body shaming is a big one in sororities. I can remember in college hearing about things happening to some of these women that was just really, really awful. Hank, you've been studying this since the 1970s. The numbers don't seem to be going down. This case out of Missouri is apparently the worst ever, and it just happened last year. How do we finally fix this? How do we finally stop it?
I think the number one thing right now with fraternities is to end pledging. For me, it's a mathematical equation. Pledging equals hazing, hazing equals pledging. It has to be stopped at least for some time, because as your guest before who went through hazing said, it's all about power and dominance. What we really need to do is look at the difference between abuse and discipline. The fraternities and athletic teams, et cetera, do build discipline. The minute it goes into the area of abuse, it's the same as the difference between winning and losing.
And Hank, what do you know about hazing in the military? I mean, it's such a structured environment, but apparently it's very prevalent there too. What can you tell us?
And it's often in elite forces where you have very powerful, strong people, and the attempt, as I'm seeing it, is to try to take a weaker candidate and to make him stronger. But what it really is abuse, where a person can be pummeled. We've seen racist hazing with an Asian and with a Filipino cadet. So again, it's about power and dominance, but it's out of control. And often alcohol is involved and the inhibitions are gone. And we see some severe beatings. We've also seen suicides from recruits. So there's been studies on the military hazing. All of the armed forces are aware of it, but it still hasn't ended.
And Dr. Duffy, I know people want to fit in, but the obvious question here a lot of times is, why not just walk away? Why don't some of these men and women just say, that's it, I'm out of here?
Well, as Tyler was saying, when you were speaking to him a moment ago, he wanted to belong to something. He wanted to fit in. This was a way to make a bunch of friends quickly, to meet girls, to go to parties. It was exciting. And this was what you needed to go through in order to achieve that. So, that's the reason that so many young people don't walk away. To Hank's point, sometimes this isn't just a military thing or a fraternal thing. It can be an athletic team, as anything you want to be a part of. If there are rites of initiation that are a little far afield, I agree that we want to rein those in because they can be so dangerous. And people recoil all the way back to home to have start over, regroup, treat whatever it is that they went through, either physically, mentally or emotionally, and get back to their lives. But it can take an awful lot of time and an awful lot of life away from them in order to get to that point.
Yeah, and I would imagine, Dr. Duffy, there's this feeling, especially when you're young, you want to be cool, you want to be masculine, you don't want to give up, you don't want to walk away, you want to seem tough. I think that's just inbred in our culture. But at the same time, you can look tough if you say, screw this, I'm not doing this, I'm getting out of here. Maybe some other people would follow. It's almost like someone just needs to be brave enough when you're in this situation to stand up for everybody else.
On rare occasion, I hear those stories, Brian, and usually if there's one guy who's willing to say, nope, I'm not going to do that, enough's enough, typically you're right that there are some followers to that guy. But there is this element of groupthink. And if everybody's kind of going along, it takes a real act of courage because of that bravado, because of that machismo that you are describing, to be that guy, to step away. Because the minute you do that, you risk not belonging to the club that everybody wants to belong to.
Yeah, but you could also end up the guy who's even cooler than everybody else because you said, you know what, follow me. We're not going to do this. And hopefully more people will do that. Hank, let me ask you finally. Obviously team building is important. And I get why you want to have team building and why you want to be in situations with new friends that might be a little uncomfortable because you get to know each other better. But it seems like there should be more of a line here.
Oh, a definite line. And what is happening is that we're seeing it sometimes coaches encouraging this or turning away. At the athletic level, as Dr. Duffy is saying, we've seen sodomies. There was just a conviction in Minnesota yesterday. We've seen punches, a game at Modern Day in California where a younger player has to stand and take punches from a bigger player. That player who was hit last year also has brain damage, not to the extent of Danny Santoli, but he's definitely not the same person he was before he stood toe-to-toe with a much bigger player to please the teammates.
Well, gosh, we've heard the stories before. I can just hope that Danny's story out of Missouri will finally shake things up. The numbers don't point like that's going to happen because it keeps on going on, but hopefully we can start chipping away at this problem. Hank Nuwer and Dr. John Duffy, thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.